But
They broke that track. Like, I almost wanted to break my TV with how that race ended last night.
yeah, it was bad. Like the race.
Like, I probably have about a 10-minute rant in me, so I'm gonna let you go first on that finish.
So obviously the caution should not have ever been thrown there. But let's not pretend we don't. Like, they wanted to bunch it up and get another restart. That's very typical NASCAR. Very, very 100% typical NASCAR. Not the only time we've seen them been super trigger happy with the caution lights. Not the first time, won't be the last. The difference is it feels a lot less bad when it's 10 feet before the white flag versus 10 feet before the start finish line. I don't even know that most of us knew that it was a rule for the All-Star race that the race must end under green flag conditions.
I thought it was. I wasn't sure. And then when it happened, my jaw hit the floor. I will say there's been talk about, like, do you want races to end under green? I've seen people say, oh, why don't we use ARCA rules? Absolute no for me. I do not care if that was not a points race. I do not want to see that ever again.
I would stand by. Well, first of all, I don't think it would be as bad if it wouldn't have felt as bad if we knew that was the case right off the bat. But even the broadcast seemed unsure at the time over what exactly happened. I've argued for what is effectively the opposite of what the overtime line was. I still stand by that argument, particularly at tracks like road courses and plate tracks. And a road course, you should almost never need. You need people need to be dying almost to throw a caution.
Yeah, that's one thing
Before
NASCAR does
finish.
too much, yeah.
Finish. But at plate tracks in particular, I would be a fan of basically the opposite of overtime line, in that it just, instead of being on the one to or coming on two to go, it's on the white flag. They don't hit that line by the backstretch or where somewhere on the backstretch of the white flag lap, then you can rack them up and go again for 2 laps. And that's just because I think we should do as much as we can to have races finish under green without it feeling dirty, and plate tracks are where it feels would feel the least dirty.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's almost in today's NASCAR ever going to be a time that it feels like, someone on the backstretch has this race won, it's already over. Like, it's just not gonna happen unless we have one car left in the race or everyone else almost got in a crash, at which point NASCAR would have probably thrown the caution anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But here, especially like I said, 10 feet before, there's no, first of all, those 10 feet, there's no safety argument you can make to me that those 10 feet are going to matter.
Oh yeah, no, we've said that.
Like there's zero argument that those 10 feet are going to change the safety crew's response. So that was one issue. And knowing that that's the rule for the All-Star race, I'm not going to be surprised if we continue to see that happen. They if it's spread out like that, they've always kind of done whatever they could to make it close. We've seen a lot late in the race where the same hit that was not a caution 5 laps into the race is a caution with 5 laps to go. We've seen it before. We're going to continue to see it. It's NASCAR. Not universally, but a lot of times it's a lot more like NASCAR should have let them race than, man, I'm glad NASCAR didn't throw the yellow there. Particularly late in the races. But then, obviously, Blaney takes his window net down because he thinks he won the race. This is not a points race. NASCAR has a long established tradition of kind of making up the rules that they go, especially in the All-Star race. You let Blaney come down pit road, put the window net up, and take his position back. Obviously, yeah, Blaney took his window net down, and he shouldn't have, and I understand that old argument, but it's the All-Star race. Who cares? Who cares? Let him come back, put the window net up. No one else is allowed to touch anything. You send him back out, he goes back to the lead. Done. Easy problem, and you've now eliminated one whole aspect of this, because people are trying to argue, and I think Junior even mentioned this, that they'll let us argue about the window net all they want in order to draw away from throwing that caution. I don't think that's a smart strategy because now we are questioning NASCAR's own safety policies, which has kind of been the thing NASCAR's always tried to be pretty consistent with. But you let a guy go down 2 laps where his window net was not, or run 2 laps where his window net was not attached correctly or at all, based on some of the pictures.
I think he was holding it up at some points during those last 2 laps.
So, to me, NASCAR would have been much smarter to talk about the caution because you could just. I would do basically what he came out and said. We were probably a little trigger happy with it. That's it. That's the end of it. It's an all-star race. Who cares? It's not like it'd be much different if this was for like $1 million is $1 million, but $1 million also a lot less than $1 million was when they first started making this $1 million 25, 30 years ago, whenever it was. So I think to me the bigger story, not even the caution, is that Blaney, they allowed him to run those 2 laps with the window net down. Quite frankly, as messed up as it is, it's a better look, I feel like, by and large, to at least just black flag him and take the window. You seem like a bad person and you're an idiot and we all hate you, sure. But now we feel like, what's the point of anything if you just let him run 2 laps with no window net up? Go ahead.
All right. So, I mean, I we're on the same page here for a lot of things. I think my biggest issue with this, and I have a bone to pick with Mr. Scott Miller, because he's been in the sport for a very long time. It's not like he's somebody that's come around recently and has taken this position. He worked for teams for years and years before he got into this position where he is right now. For a lack of a better word that will not get me in trouble, just what a clown. He really just should have shut up last night when he said, "Yeah, we were trigger happy with throwing the yellow flag."
That's all you say. Done. That's the end of it.
Yeah, it's done. It should have just ended there. It was a bad yellow flag, and because the rules weren't made, clear before the start of the race, I guess maybe they were. I don't know. They weren't to the fans. They probably weren't to the drivers because Ryan Blaney's crew was celebrating on pit road after he came across the line to take what was the yellow flag. I've seen bad yellows like that. You've seen bad yellows like that. That was very similar, in my opinion, to the 2017 Fall Richmond race, the cutoff race before the playoffs. Martin Truex Jr. has that race wrapped up. Derek Cope, pretty much similar to Stenhouse. I think Cope didn't even hit the wall. He just got up in the outside lane, kicks up dust. Yellow flag. Truex basically has the win taken from him because his pit crew screws him in pit road. Kyle Larson wins the race off pit road. Truex gets dumped trying to catch back up. Larson wins the race. I've seen yellows like that. It's frustrating. It's bad. Whatever. What really pisses me off is when Scott Miller comes on after, when Bob Pockris asks him about why didn't you just let Blaney go down pit road and put the window net up. And he goes, well, that would be very unprecedented for how we do races. No, it's not. And you already talked about that. They wadded up like a dozen cars here. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's still a lot. They're not here either, but at Charlotte in 2001, and they let them bring out the freaking backup cars. It's the All-Star race. There's no points.
Sure.
There's no reason why you could not have let Ryan Blaney go down pit road and put his window net up. That is absolutely ridiculous. And this goes back to, and my problem with Scott Miller, it's not just this. This goes back to Loudon last year. What are you doing? You get out there, you let the guys run in the rain at Loudon. I'm sitting in the stands with a scanner. I can hear the drivers talk. They're saying it is raining. They say we need to throw the yellow. You let Kyle Busch back into the fence, ruining his day. I don't understand.
There was even some talk then about, they should
That's
let him take out
issue.
Backups.
Yeah, a little different.
It was obviously never going to happen.
Right.
But the fact that fans were willing to accept that then, and were arguing for it then, to me, Blaney coming down, putting his window up, the biggest no-brainer they've ever had. And
I don't know how you screw that up. It's absolutely ridiculous. And back to the Loudon thing too. And this is where just Scott Miller loses me, and why I think he's a freaking clown. Is that he goes out there after the race. He said, "Oh, we were monitoring the driver radio, and we had no indication that it was raining. I had a scanner. I was in the stands. I had Chase Briscoe, Kyle Busch saying it was raining. I could hear it. You're full of crap. You're not managing the show. This is absolutely ridiculous. And you dropped the ball again last night." It was bad. It was bad. It was probably one of the worst things that I've seen. They're damn lucky Ryan Blaney won that race. They're damn lucky he won that race. If something happened, God forbid he crashed, like you're not going to hear the end of it. It was one of the worst calls that I've seen in my almost 30 years of watching the sport. It was absolutely ridiculous.
I'm trying to really think of like from a on the track thing, not a decision like the playoffs or the chase, but an on the track split moment decision that NASCAR has ever made that was worse. I guess maybe what was that in the 500 where they black flagged Carl even though he lost positions going under the line?
Shootout. Yes, that
The
was
shootout.
yeah, it was the
That
shootout.
one,
Yeah,
that one's pretty bad. That one might be worse, but
the Ricky Rudd and Davey Allison incident at Sonoma comes to mind. Black flagging Ricky Rudd there.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with that one.
That's another one that comes to mind for me. But there's not a lot. It's a very very short list. I'm sure there's some that are just escaping my mind right now. But man, like it's on
It
the
was
list.
bad. It was
It
very
was
bad.
bad. It was very bad. It was very bad. I think the whole ending to the Talladega race in the playoffs in 2015. I'm not even just saying that as a Dale Jr. fan. My personal take on that race is they should have let the race go green when Kyle Larson and Jimmy Johnson spun. There's no debris on the track. They got moving again. There was no need for that yellow to come back out and let Kevin Harvick do what he did. That race should have went green from there, and we would have had a finish, or they would have wrecked. I don't know what would have happened, but that situation should not have happened. And I tend to agree they lost, or tend to think that they kind of lost control of the drivers there. I think if you handle that differently, there's a small chance Matt Kenseth doesn't do what he did to Joey Logano at Martinsville, because he looks at what Kevin Harvick does in that situation. He can't help but think like, well, what's the saying? The inmates are running the asylum at this point. Like, I'm gonna go take out Joey. I don't know if Matt thought that. He probably didn't. He wanted to get back at Joey, but in my head, anyways, I can't help but feel watching Kevin Harvick get away with taking out the field so he can advance in the playoffs allows Matt Kenseth to possibly think in some way, well, I could just take out Joe Logano and nothing's going to happen to me.
I agree 100%. I agree 100%.
So there are some other situations where I feel like NASCAR has just dropped the ball or let things get out of control. That's my take on that. Hi, Brandon Monroe here. Thanks for watching our video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our new content.